Something a bit different today. Got a Retina IIIc here that's been recovered in brown leatherette. I'm sure it's got its share of mechanical problems to be dealt with, but certainly looks a bit different to your usual run-of-the-mill retinas. So this one, I'm going to have a quick look at this now and see if I can see what's going on. The shutter, the film advance lever, does not want to extend all the way. Shutter release certainly doesn't depress. It sort of suggests to me that there's a serious problem with the shutter cocking rack. Maybe other things going on too, of course. We shall find out. I'll see if I can tell whether the cocking rack's actually moving anything. It is moving, the curved rack at the shutter. I suppose it's vaguely possible the timing of the shutter to the cocking rack is completely out of whack and it's just reaching the end of its stroke. I'll investigate that first. I'll remove the shutter and lens assembly from the body. Just retrieve that retaining ring. See if it makes any difference. No, shutter release is still, the film advance rather, is still locked up and most certainly does not want to complete the advance stroke. So, be in a bit deeper still. Take off that. Take off the top cover and investigate, see what's going on under there. That screwdriver's not much use. Find a better one. Alright, off with the top cover. Let's retrieve that screw. Remove the meter and see if we can see the cocking rack. The glass is loose and broken on the top of the meter. It's possible that the missing piece of glass or fragments thereof have dropped in and are blocking the action somewhere. I can see the cocking rack. It's right back at the end of its stroke over here. And it doesn't want to move. And if I look in here, there's fragments of glass loose in here. There's one chip of glass. There's probably more than that. It looks to me like the rack does not want to move forward. Let's remove the rack and find out if that's the problem. Take that clamp, that screw off there on that plate. Take out this screw. This screw. That's quite tight. Take the rack out and check and see if the film advance will move now. No, it still doesn't want to complete. So the problem does not appear to be here with the rack. The problem is at the base of the camera. This is all coming apart, so I'm just going to completely strip it now and open up the base of the camera and see what's going on down there. First I'll remove the rangefinder. There's a shim washer from underneath the clamp down plate. Just remove the strap lug at this end. I can see the strap lug is slightly bent. That happens if someone has dropped the camera on the end, or if someone has forced the strap lugs in some fashion, perhaps trying to force through a leather strap that's too thick for it. That'll probably do for the moment. Let's turn my attention to the base of the camera. See if this leatherette will come off. Of course, the leatherette's an unknown quantity because it's not what I'm used to using. I've got no idea how durable it will be or what sort of adhesive has been used in order to stick it in place. The adhesive feels very sticky. It almost has the feel of that double-sided tape stuff. I'll try a drop of naphtha under there, see if that will soften the adhesive. I think it's having virtually no effect except to lubricate my scalpel blade so that I can slide it under the adhesive easier, as otherwise the adhesive will tend to stick to the blade and prevent you from moving it. Alright, that's quite durable looking, that leatherette. Certainly got some odd black backing to it. And of course we want this piece off. Alright, a bit interesting. The shape of the leatherette here suggests to me that when it was replaced, whoever did the job didn't have an original piece of leatherette to serve as a template, and so made what they thought it should have looked like. Oh, that's pretty gooey, that adhesive. Let's try this. That is very sticky stuff. Yeah, it does soften the adhesive. It's probably only a very temporary softening, but it's oh, that's pretty tenacious stuff. That really doesn't want to lift off at all. And it is really sticking to my hands. Fuck. Reminds me of the sort of adhesive that you can only shift with the likes of methyl ethyl ketones and other nasty solvents. Right, I have that incredibly sticky piece of leatherette. Everything's sticking to my fingers now. I'm going to have to go and clean up. Well, I got it off my hands with this stuff, which is a citrus-based cleaner, and it got rid of that sticky stuff right away. So back to the camera itself. Let's delve into this thing and see if I can discover what has gone wrong. If I can find the screwdriver I was using. Yes, it's fallen on the floor. Yes, to be expected perhaps. Don't know what that leatherette was intended to be used on, but I'm not sure it was cameras. That's very sticky. Okay, so what do we got down here? That's the start position for the advance lever. Let's put the lever back on. This is playing hard to get. No, something is really jammed. At the top of the camera. Well, the jam, I'm pretty sure the jam is here. The take-up spool, the shaft doesn't want to rotate forward at all. The sprocket shaft doesn't want to move at all. And we did have some flecks of glass down there, so I wouldn't be at all surprised if there isn't some foreign body jamming up the works here. This sprocket shaft itself is capable of rotation. Pressing in the rewind button proves that. This piece is not capable of rotation, and we'll see if we can find out why. This is locked in place. It doesn't move at all. The grease is all very sticky, but that's not the cause of the problem. Taking that off the shaft completely. And moving this doesn't want to complete a turn at all. I'm pretty sure that there is something jammed down under here between the gear on the clutch and the bottom of the gear that we see here. Let's lift this out and find out what we've got. First I want the rewind button off. So the rewind button. Oh. I notice, I'll get this in the right light, you might be able to see it. There's a lot of white corrosion here. Very messy. Not sure what's caused that. Typically you see things like that where the camera has been put down in a puddle and the moisture is just effectively eaten the base of the camera. I'm just taking the drive screw out from the sprocket shaft. Push out the sprocket shaft, take out the sprocket. Let's get back to where the parts we're interested in. You want to know why this won't rotate a full turn. Oh, take that screw off. That was very tight. Looking at this gear, that will rotate a full circle without any problems at all. But obviously something was jamming it on that clutch. I'll take the clutch out. That moves smoothly. I'm looking at the gear here. Now there's certainly dirt in this gear. It looks like a damaged tooth over here. The fragment, it's a fragment of glass. A fragment of glass had got in here and embedded itself in the root of the tooth and stopped it from being able to revolve. There it is. Stops it from being able to revolve on the clutch. And that glass came from here, because this is only half a piece of glass and the other piece has got fragmented up and dropped in here. I'll see if I can knock that chip of rubbish out of here. Of course, being glass, it's hard to see it. That's it. Is there another one? Probably. Another bit there. I'm not sure I'm wiping. I'm probably wiping as much on as I'm wiping off. Okay, there we go. Got rid of that little tiny chip of glass. Now the gear rotates. That's what the problem was. A tiny chip of glass. Here's another fragment of it. Another piece down there. So it doesn't take much to jam a camera. Now the piece of glass that had actually jammed that up was just an incredibly small fragment. Possibly if you'd been exceptionally cruel and forced something, you might have crushed it to powder and carried on. Alright, well, we've discovered what was wrong with it now. Everything else should be pretty much just a standard strip down, clean and overhaul, I suppose. This corrosion around here though, that's That's a mess, isn't it? Look at the state of that. All that white corrosion product. That's where the aluminium body here is corroded up. And I suppose they're aluminium salts, that white stuff. All of that's got to be cleaned out. Yuck. Right, so here we have, that's a tired looking camera, certainly got an interesting paint job. Let's have a look at the cocking rack. It's dirty, it's difficult to tell what state that's in. The teeth all appear to be present. It's just rubbish. It's that crunched up glass and grease and filth. Alright, the cocking rack looks like it'll probably be a goer. So, I'll strip this thing down, and if I see anything interesting I'll let you know. Otherwise I'll bring you back once I've got it all cleaned and might show you some of the reassembly. Well, I've got this stripped down to a chassis now. As you can see, it's one of the dirtiest and most corroded looking cameras I've seen through here in a wee while, but we'll be able to clean up most of that rubbish. The first thing I've got to do is do something about the adhesive that's still stuck to the base of this camera. So hopefully my magic stuff will soften that up and I can wipe that stuff away, because otherwise it'll be sticking to everything. No, I can still feel it. I'll have to use cotton buds, maybe some other solvents, get rid of that stickiness. Pointless trying to work on it until I get rid of that stickiness, because it'll just be picking up dust and rubbish as I go, and I need all these parts clean. Well, as I'm working my way through cleaning up these components, which is going fairly smoothly, I noticed that the back catch is quite sticky. Now, to dismantle the back catch, really I've got to get this leatherette off here, take that piece out there, so let's have a go. You can see how this filthy adhesive sticks to the scalpel blade, and it stops you being able to slide your blade in to loosen things. Alright, we'll peel it back. I'm not going to peel it back all the way. There are 2 screws. They're quite small. I imagine that this adhesive is possibly run into the works here a bit and gumming things up, or it might just be the general filth. It's difficult to say. Take that cover off, that's pretty sticky. And here we have our lever. I know I need to get the button off the end of that, so I need to find the right pliers. I'm making good of these use of these good circlip pliers. I'll just loosen that button, which is screwed in and has its own return spring, which is quite small and quite stiff. Now I can take that piece out, and I need to clean these surfaces and probably give it a wipe with some molybdenum paste as lubricant. But I just need to get any old dirt and grease and filth off there so that the components will slide smoothly. because at the moment they don't want to. Oh yeah, it's very sticky. Look, that just sticks. That's adhesive that's got on there. That's come from that leatherette. It's run in. Oh, yuck. This surface, of course, has got the adhesive on it directly from the leatherette. Let's see if I can get some of that filth off it. That seems to be shifting it. There's more remains of adhesive on here. It's probably from the earlier generation. That's good. Clean those parts down with a bit of naphtha. That's just the two screws and the button and its return spring. Right, I'll need some molybdenum paste, a new battery for my video camera and another tool. Right, first thing I've got here is a pin vise which I'm going to use to hold the button, so that I've got something to hold the button with while I attempt to screw it back into position, because it's exceptionally awkward to do it with your fingers. I'll give this lever a wipe on both surfaces with some molybdenum paste. You don't need to be too fussy about that. Drop that into position. Fit the cover in position and fit the two screws, which of course are the only components left with the sticky adhesive on them, so they're causing me problems. Can't even get my screwdriver to engage properly. The slots are clogged up with so much filth. That's one. Two. I'll see if the leatherette will roll back and stay there. Depends if it's got enough adhesive on it still. It looks promising. So, the button. Well, to fit our return spring, and then holding the lever down with my finger here, I can fit the button in from the bottom and screw it in place. That went smoothly enough. Now I'll tighten it with my crimp lug pliers and check the action. Now the action of the back catch is good. That's exactly as it should be. I'm quite pleased with that. This leatherette certainly picks up the marks. Just cleaning it. See if that improves its appearance. Yeah, it does. Alright, I'm quite happy now that it'll clean up after I've been working on it. So the camera body casting is all clean now, ready for reassembly. These other components that also have to be cleaned by hand, they've all been cleaned and they're ready for reassembly. And I can move on to doing some of these other little bits and pieces. I'm still going to have to clean all the sticky rubbish off this chrome trim for the base plate. And the front door. Yeah. I can get that clean and we can make sure the hinge works properly. The wrinkles that you see on here, that's inevitably what you'd get if you're using a product like this. This leatherette is exceptional. It's on some very stiff backing. Means it's inflexible. Basically you can roll it like you could roll a sheet of steel, but to make it follow a complex curve like this where the metal rolls off in different directions, you would have to stretch the material. This material was probably incapable of stretching. So inevitably you'll end up with puckers like this as you try to get it into place. I doubt whether you could make those go away. Possibly in small cases, if you warmed it up to the hairdryer, you may find you can press those down flat, but I would be exceptionally dubious about the prospect of that succeeding, and I'm not looking for trouble. My brief is to make a working camera out of this, not start afresh rebuilding it into something else. Okay, so I'll carry on cleaning up. Well, the day is done. Camera's all good and happy now, nice and clean, everything works nicely. Shutter's been stripped and cleaned, rangefinder stripped and cleaned, everything out of the chassis, that's been stripped and cleaned. Even got the leatherette back on the base. And so there it is. A brown leatherette covered Retina IIIc in this case. Now I can hear some of you wondering, well, who the hell would do something like that? Well, as it happens, it reminded me of this one, which is one of mine, a Retina IIc that I made up years ago, except this one's covered in real leather, not leatherette. And this one, a Reflex 3. Again, this one's covered in leather, not leatherette. But you can use leatherette. Here I've got a Retina IIIs. And it's a bit hard in this dim light, but that's nice dark brown leatherette. So you see, some people do cover their retinas in other colours than black. Thanks for watching.